TV in Iowa City and from the Education Exchange program. Tonight is an exciting night because it is our last this season, and we are celebrating this by bringing two very important guests. And why we're saying two, and you have in front of you in the camera one only, and you probably read in the introduction our guests, Renato Deleon. And we call you guests because you are not only an educator and a counselor, but you are an inspiration to a lot of people in this city, in this district, and you have made a legacy. And why did we keep you till the last show? Because you are retiring, which I cannot believe it, but when I heard the news and I got a note from Dr. Jerry Argambright about you, and I will quote him in a very simple phrase before I introduce you to our audience. Mm-hmm. And excuse me for taking off my glasses. He said that Mr. Deleon has been instrumental in establishing a very strong reputation for our guidance program at West and the district in general. Renato, I have known you for some decades now.
Yes.
We probably started at the same time, but in the meantime, I had the pleasure and the honor to work with your sister at the Alternative Education, Marilyn Hansen. And you both just legendary educators. And I would like you to look at the camera and tell our audience something about yourself. How do you introduce yourself to Iowa City, Coralville, North Liberty, and the surroundings?
Well, I've been here in Iowa City for a long time. And in fact, the way it started was I went to do my undergraduate at the university, and that's how I discovered Iowa City. I fell in love with the city at that time, and in the back of my mind, I always thought, if I had an opportunity to come back to this community, to this city, I would love to do so. And down the years, after especially I finished my program, worked in another district, then that opportunity came, and I took it. And I've lived here since. I've raised, my wife and I have raised our daughter here. And in fact, she has been living in California now for a little while. She teaches at Cal State and has plans to come back to the Midwest. I mean, she loves the Midwest as much as I do.
And the decision to retire, how did it come about?
Well, partly because of my age. I mean, I had come to the point where, and I love my job.
You mean you are 25 now?
Yes, I'm 25 years old. So finally...
I know that you are 2 years older than me, right? So I am 23.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. And I felt like probably in another year, really, that I was going to retire. And then this opportunity, they said, you know, that they had some incentive for people.
The early retirement.
Yes. And I thought, well, whether it's this year or next year, you know, why not? And so, because I've been thinking, my wife and I have been thinking about this for a while as to what we would do and so on. So when the opportunity came, I said, okay, let's go ahead.
Now, tell us about your story in schools. I mean, as an educator, as a counselor, as a guidance counselor, what does it mean to the audience that are not really like you and me who work in the school? Mm-hmm. What does it mean, counselor, psychologist, guidance counselor? Mm-hmm. Can you clarify this to us.
Okay. Well, let me start first as to a little background about me. My family and I came directly to Iowa, in fact, as immigrants to this country. My father and my mother were in the medical profession, and so when they came, my parents' idea was really to be able to assimilate as quickly as possible. He did not really want to go to the coast, wherein there are Filipino communities, and but what he wanted was that if you're going to come to this new country, was to assimilate into the country, to love the culture as much as people that were born here, and also he was concerned about obviously that we speak the language, and so from when I started school back in the Philippines, he made sure that we would go to schools that were run by public missionaries, American missionaries, and where English was taught. In fact, that was the language of the school. We did have our language, Tagalog, as one of the subjects in the school. So I came here about when I was in the middle of high school.
Was it the time when Marcos was the president?
It was before then.
Before even Marcos?
Yes.
Because Marcos was started around...
probably, I'm not sure because I was gone at
late
that
50s.
point. Yeah. So.
Okay.
And since then, and growing up, finished high school, and I worked immediately while I was going on to the community college, and I worked at the Mental Health Institute.
Oh.
And it was there with my father's background, who's a psychiatrist, and the therapy, the counseling part that he does, as well as my work. When I did it, I happened to be working wherein it was with adolescents. And that's what kind of got me into this issue of counseling, what I saw as working with young people, which I've always loved, and their parents. And so that's how it got me to this field.
What is the difference that you see between the old school of counseling and the new trends and the progress of the profession?
I think with counseling that has started just at the turn of the 1900s, it first started as what they call vocational counseling, because at that time they had vocational education, and then so it was sort of like a part of the school system, but not really, and that's the way it's been for a long time. As time went on with different people influencing counseling, there was a part of it that became that wherein psychometrics or assessment got into it, as well as more maybe a therapeutic type of counseling with Carl Rogers, and it was much later with
Carl Rogers from the Northwest.
Yes.
Northwestern,
yeah. And one of the things that was done was that it became wherein it looked at it as a developmental look at kids. That you're looking at their health, you're looking at the mental health issues, you're looking at where they are psychometrically, and so that's how counseling kind of started.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but because you mentioned Carl Rogers, and of course your generation, my generation, were students of Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers. Not only because they were Midwestern, but the idea of moral education too, and all that.
That's right.
Is it still the trend now, or?
I think it's over the years. It's one of those that counseling, people don't even know where it fits in education. It feels like one of those that's an add-on to the teaching part of education. And what's really happened, because we're looking at, as we look at the whole student, one of the things that that's come today is really to be able to look at not only that students are prepared uh, through what's going on in this classroom, but looking at it as as the whole child. You know, making sure that they can go on to the next level, and that's part of where counseling comes in. It's really become an integral part of what education is today.
So Renato, can you? I like anecdotes and stories. You know,
Okay.
to give our show a kind of lively,
Sure.
personal and interpersonal
Uh-huh.
connection with our audience rather than the routine
Uh-huh.
use of the jargon of
Yes.
education and all these boring things.
Yes.
You know. So, can you simply tell me some stories that you are taking with you?
Mhm.
Because you know, when you retire as an educator, a person who lived with young people, seeing them growing, you take them with you in your heart, as a matter
Yeah.
of fact, especially when you teach in schools.
Yeah.
It's totally different from teaching in college. You know, I spent
Right.
half of my career teaching in college. It's different.
Yeah.
Teaching in schools, you become part of the narrative. You become part of their life story. You become part of their biography.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm asking you, tell me some anecdotes that you remember or you will take with you.
What I think I will take with me is the fact that it seems like when I first meet these students, they are unassuming, they are unsure of what the next steps are. High school is so different from, say, the junior high level of education. And so they are just kind of making these baby steps at first. But what I see rapidly is that students adapt to what they have in front of them. They want to partake as much of it as they can. I see students wanting to take all the classes that are available. They want to challenge themselves, and that's what I see Iowa City has offered. In each school, of course, what counseling does is, I think it has its own flavor, but in this community, I think that as more education, that's what is what parents want to see. They want them to go on to college, some sort of college. They want them to find themselves through high school as well as, and that's what I think I will take for a long time. I've met students that I feel like are really my children. They, you know, that I want to know. They come back and tell me how they've done in college. That's what I appreciate most, more than anything, because in that process, I learn as well as to, you know, what they found difficult, what they found easy. What I think that the preparation from high school has helped them, and they talk about those type of things and their love of the teachers and who has taught them, and they come back to just to say hello.
You see, have you succeeded in tailoring the suit the right way? Let us put it this way.
Yes.
But do we push our kids too hard as parents?
I think sometimes.
I can feel sometimes that, you know, like, oh, take this and take this and take this and you have to take this and
Yes.
What is the limit? I mean, I want you to look at the camera and talk to the audience here. When do we stop pushing our kids before driving them crazy?
I think that's a good word. Well, I think sometimes that in our efforts as parents, because I feel like that, I feel like I'm a parent of these kids, in our efforts to make sure that they are prepared, we want to challenge them, but in those efforts, sometimes it can be where we overdo it. I think we see ourselves in our own kids. So I see myself in these kids. How much do I challenge them? When do I back off? And I think that's the most important part for parents, is that to, obviously, you want to have them have all those opportunities, but at the same time, knowing that these high school kids are really young adults, and really these young people are starting to make decisions, and one of the ways they can learn to make these decisions is for parents to allow them to do that. And if a student makes a mistake, the parent is there to kind of help them. At the same time, not saying, this is the way I want you to do this.
How about if a parent now who's looking at this screen, listening to both of us, says, well, but how do I know that my kid would make the right decision? They are immature, they are little kids, they don't know. I have more experience, I know better. So what is your answer to that?
What I would say would be that, again, when I say that they're young adults, is that it's important that in decision making, whether it's especially about their education, that it's important that you give them that leeway that says, what is it that you like best? What kind of subjects? It's not, to me, it's not important that they do honors or take all these AP classes that's available. If they want to, sure. But at the same time, getting the student to be a part of that whole conversation. So talk to the kids. I mean, we always say that. You hear that said often. But it's important that when you actually have a high school student, it's important that in decisions, whether it's with the family, with their education, that they truly are a part of it. When they feel that way, there's a lot more ownership with what they're doing, and a lot more ownership then with the grades and how they do. No matter what we say as parents, we want to say, you know, I haven't really been pushing my kids, or I try not to, but even unconsciously, you have certain values that you give to your kids, and so they can feel it when you're disappointed, just like you can feel it you know, when you have disappointed them at the same time. So it's those type of things. So they can tell when you don't like a particular grade, when you don't like a particular career maybe that they're talking about. It's important to kind of say, look, I know you want to do those things. However, there may be some pitfalls along the way, but here's what I'm willing to do as a parent. I am willing to support you in that. Let's go that direction. Let's see where it takes us. You know, by doing that, I think it allows students to kind of say, my parents are behind me. You know, maybe they may find that's not really what they really want to do down the road, but at least it gives them that opportunity to make those risks, and also knowing that if I make a mistake, my parents are always behind me. And that's what I think is important.
And it's a fact that this generation is very well informed.
Very.
At least they have an access to information much easier than you and I had or did.
We were growing up, yes.
Yeah, definitely. So sometimes they are on the right track, and we have to, as much as we hear, we have to listen. And by listening, I mean like try to understand where they come from in making the decision, because they do the research and they know how to do the good research, and they can talk to you with data and all that, you know.
Yes.
So we are, and that's why I want to ask you about this challenge between the technology that's so fast developing, and the fact that you have to sit and talk one-on-one.
Yes.
How do you negotiate this kind of relationship between you and the screen that they trust so much, because the screen is their friend?
Yeah.
And then when we talk, it's not as serious as what comes through the screen. So I think this I would say constitutes a kind of challenge to your job as a counselor.
Yes.
or advisor?
I think it is for all educators. I think we are competing a lot of times with what they see on television or on the web. In a lot of ways, I feel like counseling down the road will probably make use more and more of all those avenues to be able to reach more kids, to be able to guide them in some direction. Again, remember what I was talking about in terms of counseling. It really is not, or like parents, it's not to push them a certain direction, but to almost give them enough information beyond also what they find everywhere else, and allow them to make these choices along the way, because they want to make those choices. Sometimes they're very uneasy. Like when I said, when a freshman comes in, they're not quite sure about what's going to happen. But as they move along, I just see young men and women that grow and really learn a lot about themselves and about the choices they have while they're still in high school. And I envy them about what's coming in front of them, and how they maneuver. That's what I see young people do today.
Now you work at West High School.
Yes.
Right? And who, other than you, works in the counseling?
We have now, we have 6 counselors, including myself. We have Amy Canales, is Paul Brightwell.
The legendary Amy.
Yes, you know Amy well. And Greg
I know
Yoder.
Amy. I know her mother very well. I know her husband, and I know his dad.
You know the family,
I
because
know,
they,
yeah,
she's
yeah.
an Iowa City product, really.
Exactly.
And we have Greg Yoder and Kay DeLeo and Kelly Bergman. And the way which probably in most schools, we just kind of divide the students by alpha, and we take care of helping those students, but we're always open to just as to who. It doesn't really matter as far as what students or parents may feel more comfortable with a particular counselor.
So you allow, if a student doesn't feel so comfortable, for instance, with Hani, and wants to go to Renato, there is no ill feeling here. You allow that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I think sometimes when, say, a young woman would feel more comfortable with a woman counselor, why not?
Right.
Why not? Right. So yes, so long as it doesn't overburden a particular counselor, and I've not heard of counselors who said, "No, I can't do it."
Now, because we have a couple of minutes that remained in the show, I want you to tell me something about your, I want to know, of course, your plans for the future.
Okay.
Because I know that the future begins after retirement.
Yes.
I am a good example of that. I would like to know from you, what is the most thing that you will miss in your job now?
Just like all kids and all the teachers, I'm looking forward to the end of the school year. It's been a long year, and as each year has been, but I think I don't feel it yet, but where I will miss it is when August comes and everybody's getting ready for school, and I'm going to find myself.
The first day
Yes,
is a strange day, I tell you.
What am I doing at that
Don't
point
stay
in time?
in the same city.
Yeah.
You have to be away. But don't look at the buses taking the kids.
Yes.
And you are there.
Yes, and that's what I will miss. But what I will miss most about what I do on a daily basis is, again, this, especially as I see students from freshman to senior year, and they are now ready to take that next step. And I see them go to the schools that they've always dreamed about going to. That part of it I will truly miss, because I love that part of trying to be able to help students to go on to the next level. How can I get to that school? how do I get to pay for that school, because education is expensive, you know. And so by doing all of those steps along the way, I think that's what I will miss most.
I am sure that everybody is going to miss you, Renato, and miss your smile and miss your hospitality and generosity and your legacy. But your legacy talks about what you have done over the years, and we congratulate you and wish
Thank
you
you.
a good new career. But you promise that you are going to continue in touch with us.
Yes.
And we again congratulate your family for being now having more time to spend with them.
Yes.
This show is going to be aired on our education channel 21. That's cable channel 21, and as well as public access TV, which offers us this generous help and support, the studio and the help of the people here. Of course, I have to give credit to the creator of this show, Mr. John Karhoff of City High, the math guru there, and Mr. Michael Peterson. Both of them are always behind this glass window. You don't see them down here. But special thanks to Sarah Tate today for our help, and Mr. Mims, Josh Gooding, and Brian, as well as Josh there. It has always been a very good experience, and it's good that we see you in the last show that we have this year, and we wish you all the best. You can as well see this show maybe tomorrow on YouTube.
Okay.
So if you don't have cable, to our audience, please go to YouTube and click on Education Exchange, and you will find this. And
see, you take advantage of all those things as
Yeah.
well. That's available, huh?
thank you.
Thank you very much
Thank you, Renato,
for
very
inviting
much.
me.
And thanks to Jerry
thanks for the
Arganbright
friendship.
for nominating you for the show today. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, have a very good summer night. The weather is beautiful.